The first time I smelled her perfume on him, I told myself I was imagining things. It was a Thursday evening in late March, the kind where winter still clung stubbornly to the air despite the calendar insisting it was spring. Daniel had texted that he'd be home late. Another deposition running long, another client demanding his attention. I'd long since stopped questioning these last-minute delays. That was marriage to a successful defense attorney, wasn't it? The unspoken agreement that his career came first, that the long hours and missed dinners were simply the price of his six-figure salary. I was 7 months pregnant when the scent first registered. Something floral and expensive clinging to the collar of his dress shirt as he leaned in to kiss my cheek. Not my vanilla lotion. Not the lavender detergent I used. Something foreign. New cologne. I asked lightly, turning the page of my book. Daniel didn't even look up from his phone. Oh, must be the hand soap at the office. They switched brands. The lie was so effortless it sent a chill down my spine. Over the next few weeks, the signs multiplied like cracks in a frozen lake. The mysterious charges on our credit card for dinners at restaurants I'd never been to. The way his phone now faced screen down on every flat surface. The sudden business trip to Chicago that coincided with our anniversary. You understand, he'd said, already packing his suitcase while I stood in the doorway of our walk-in closet, my swollen feet aching, my back protesting from carrying the weight of our unborn child. This case could make my career. What I understood was this. The man I'd married 5 years ago, the man who'd cried when we saw the first ultrasound, had become a stranger. The breaking point came on April 12th. I'd been having contractions all afternoon. Not the real thing, just those cruel practice rounds my OBGYN called Braxton Hicks. Still, they left me breathless and uneasy. When Daniel texted that he'd be working late again, something inside me snapped. I drove to his office. The sleek high-rise was mostly dark at 8:47 p.m., only a few windows still glowing. His office was on the 14th floor. The elevator ride felt like an out-of-body experience, my reflection in the mirrored walls showing a woman I barely recognized, pale, wide-eyed, clutching her belly like a shield. The reception area was deserted. His assistant's desk sat empty, the computer dark. But down the hall, lights spilled from his cracked office door. I heard her laughter first. Bright and musical, the kind of laugh that belonged in rom-com meet-cuties, not in my husband's office after hours. Then his voice, low and intimate in a way I hadn't heard in months. "You're killing me, Olivia." My hands shook as I pushed the door open. They weren't even trying to hide it. Daniel sat on the edge of his desk, his tie loosened, while Olivia, his 26-year-old paralegal, perched in his chair, her stiletto-clad feet in his lap. The remains of what looked like a very expensive dinner sat on the coffee table. A half-empty bottle of champagne. 2 glasses. The scene was so cliché it would have been funny if it wasn't my life unraveling before me. Daniel's head snapped up. "Lena." His voice held all the warmth of a man caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Not remorse. Not horror. Just irritation at the interruption. Olivia had the decency to look embarrassed as she scrambled to her feet. "Mrs. Thompson, Your phone's off," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I've been calling for 2 hours." Daniel sighed like I was being unreasonable. "I told you I had work." "Right." My eyes flicked to the champagne. "Important legal research?" Olivia grabbed her purse and practically ran from the room. The click of her heels on the marble floor sounded like a countdown to disaster. What followed was the kind of fight that leaves scars. Daniel alternated between gaslighting, "You're overreacting," and deflection, "I've been under so much pressure." When I demanded the truth, he gave me the classic cheater's line, "It's not what it looks like." I slept in the guest room that night. The next morning I found a receipt in his jacket pocket. A $400 charge from the Belmont Hotel, dated 2 nights before my last OBGYN appointment. The appointment he'd forgotten about. I took photos of everything. The receipt. The suspicious credit card charges. Screenshots of texts between him and Olivia that I found when he left his phone unlocked in the bathroom. That was the day I started planning. The day I stopped being Lena Thompson, devoted wife, and became Lena Thompson, woman scorned. The next 2 weeks passed in a haze of quiet devastation. Daniel alternated between love-bombing me with extravagant gifts, "Thought you could use some pampering," and sulking around the house like I was the one who'd betrayed him. Meanwhile, my belly grew heavier, my ankles swelling until even my loosest maternity leggings felt like tourniquets. Naomi, my college roommate and the only person who knew the truth, became my lifeline. "You need to see a lawyer," she insisted during one of our late-night calls. "Before the baby comes." I stared at the ultrasound photo on our fridge, the grainy black and white image of Noah, his tiny fist raised like even in utero he was ready to fight. "I can't think about divorce right now. I just need to get through the birth." "Lena," Naomi said gently, "he's going to miss the delivery." He was right. On the night my water broke, Daniel was working late again. I knew before I even called that he wouldn't answer. The contractions came fast and brutal, like my body was trying to expel not just the baby but all the pain I'd been carrying. The Uber driver took one look at me and floored it. "Breathe, Mama," he kept saying, his eyes darting to me in the rearview mirror. "Just breathe." But all I could think was, he's with her right now. The delivery was a blur of pain and panic. I'd planned to have Daniel there, to have him hold my hand and tell me I was strong. Instead, a kind nurse named Maria held my leg and coached me through each push while I sobbed uncontrollably. When they placed Noah on my chest, slippery and screaming and perfect, the grief hit me like a tidal wave. This should have been our happiest moment. Instead, I was alone in a hospital room with a newborn and a shattered heart. Daniel showed up 6 hours later. I knew immediately where he'd been. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair messy like he'd just rolled out of bed. And that scent, jasmine and guilt, clung to him like a second skin. "Lena," he breathed, his eyes wide as he took in Noah in my arms. "Why didn't you call me?" The audacity of the question stole my breath. I turned my face away, unable to even look at him. "Get out. Baby, please. Get out." My scream startled Noah, his tiny arms flailing as he began to wail. Nurses came running, their expressions shifting from concern to disapproval as they took in the scene. Daniel backed away, hands raised like I was the irrational one. "You're being hysterical. It's not good for the baby." Gaslighting me even now. Even here. As the nurses ushered him out, I made my decision. Daniel Thompson had made his choice. Now I would make mine. The first 48 hours of motherhood passed in a haze of blood-stained hospital gowns, lukewarm meals left uneaten on rolling trays, and the constant whimpering cries of a newborn who didn't yet understand the world he'd been thrust into. Noah. I traced the name on his bassinet tag with a finger still swollen from 4 fluids. I'd chosen it months ago, back when I still believed in the fairy tale. Back when I thought Daniel would be here, holding my hand, whispering how proud he was of me. Instead, I got silence. Daniel hadn't returned to the hospital after I'd screamed at him to leave. Oh, he'd texted, of course, half-hearted apologies sandwiched between excuses. I didn't know it would happen so fast. "You should have called me when your water broke. They're swamping me at work. I'll come by tonight." He didn't. By the time the nurses wheeled me out to the curb on discharge day, my phone buzzed with another flimsy excuse. "Emergency hearing ran late. Can you get an Uber home?" I stared at the message, Noah bundled against my chest in his dinosaur print going home outfit, the one I'd painstakingly picked out during happier days. A taxi idled at the curb, the driver watching me with patient eyes. This was the moment I could have caved. The moment I could have texted back, "It's okay," and swallowed my rage like a bitter pill. Instead, I took a photo of Noah's sleeping face and sent it with a single line. "Meet your son." Then I turned off my phone. The house smelled stale when we arrived, the air thick with the scent of neglect. Daniel's abandoned coffee mug sat crusted on the counter, a ring of brown staining the marble. His gym bag spilled dirty laundry across the foyer. Normal people would have collapsed into tears. I started digging. Noah slept in his bassinet as I ransacked Daniel's home office. His filing cabinet yielded nothing, just case notes and legal pads. But his laptop, left carelessly on the charger, was a gold mine. He'd saved his passwords in the browser. Within minutes, I was scrolling through his email, his credit card statements, his Venmo history. The evidence unfolded like a roadmap to betrayal. March 14th, $287 dinner at La Veranda, reservation for 2. March 28th, $1,200 charge at the Belmont Hotel, the night of my glucose test. April 3rd. $350 transfer to Olivia R. With the memo, "birthday drinks, winky face." Worse were the emails. "Can't stop thinking about last night. When can I see you again? Lena's been so clingy since she got pregnant. We should talk about what happens after the baby comes. My hands shook so badly I had to set the laptop down. In the bassinet, Noah stirred, his tiny face scrunching before letting out a thin wail. The sound snapped me back to reality. I had a decision to make. Naomi arrived the next morning bearing coffee and a USB drive. "You look like hell," she announced, kicking the door shut behind her. I hadn't slept. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel's hands on Olivia's waist, his mouth whispering lies against her throat. "Here." I thrust the laptop at her. "Tell me I'm not crazy." Naomi scrolled in silence, her lips pressed into a tighter line with each new revelation. When she finally looked up, her eyes were blazing. "We're calling Rebecca Shaw." Rebecca Shaw wasn't just any divorce attorney. She was the divorce attorney in the city, the one wealthy men whispered about in panicked tones at country clubs. Her office smelled like money and vengeance. "Prenup?" Rebecca asked without preamble, her manicured fingers already flying across her keyboard. I swallowed. "Yes, but..." "Let me guess. Infidelity clause." I nodded. Rebecca smiled like a shark scenting blood. "Then congratulations, Mrs. Thompson. You're about to own your husband." Daniel came home 3 days later. I heard his key in the lock, the familiar thud of his briefcase hitting the floor. He called my name up the stairs, his voice carefully casual like we were any normal family. I waited in the nursery, rocking Noah, counting his footsteps. When Daniel appeared in the doorway, he'd clearly rehearsed his act. His face crumpled into the perfect mask of remorse. "Lena," he breathed, stepping forward with outstretched arms. "God, I've missed you both so much." I let him take Noah. Let him press kisses to our son's downy head. Watched as he blinked back tears. Real tears, I think, at holding his child for the first time. Then I said quietly, "We need to talk." Downstairs, I poured him a scotch. His favorite, the 18-year Macallan we saved for special occasions. He drank it greedily, unaware of the irony. "I know about Olivia," I said. Daniel choked. The glass slipped from his fingers, shattering on the hardwood. Scotch pooled like blood between us. "Lena, whatever you think." "I have emails," I said calmly. "Texts. Receipts. Hotel confirmations." His face cycled through emotions. Panic, denial, then a chilling calculation. "You're upset," he said slowly, adopting that patronizing tone he used with nervous witnesses. "Postpartum hormones are no joke. Maybe we should sign this." I slid the custody agreement across the table. Daniel scanned it, his jaw tightening. "This gives you primary custody." "Yes." "You can't be serious." "I am." I met his eyes for the first time. "Sign it or I take everything." A beat of silence. Then, "No." He stood, towering over me the way he always did when he wanted to intimidate. "You're not cutting me out of my son's life because of some misunderstanding." Misunderstanding. The word ignited something feral in my chest. I picked up my phone and played the recording, his voice clear as day telling Olivia, "I can't wait until this kid comes and I can finally ditch the bitch." Daniel paled. "Sign," I repeated. "Or this goes to the partners at your firm." His pen shook as he signed away his rights. The first blood. Rebecca called it a strategic preliminary strike. I called it survival. That night, as Noah slept against my chest, I logged into our shared cloud account. Daniel had forgotten I had access. There, nestled between work documents, I found the photos. Him and Olivia. In our bed. I deleted everyone. Then I transferred every penny from our joint savings into an account he couldn't touch. The war had begun. The sound of Noah's cries jolted me awake at 3:17 a.m. I stumbled to his crib, my body still aching from the C-section, and lifted him to my chest. His tiny fists flailed against me, his face red with outrage at the injustice of being hungry. As I settled into the rocking chair, the glow of my phone screen illuminated Daniel's latest text. "We need to talk. You can't keep me from my son." I deleted it without responding. The digital clock on Noah's dresser ticked over to 3:23 a.m. Somewhere across town, Daniel was probably sprawled across our king-sized bed. His bed now, alone. I wondered if Olivia was with him. She was comforting him. If she knew yet what kind of man she'd entangled herself with. Noah's sucking slowed as he drifted back to sleep, his little body going heavy in my arms. I should have put him down. Should have gone back to bed myself. Instead, I opened my laptop. It was time to destroy my husband. Olivia Renfield wasn't as smart as she thought. Her Instagram was public. A rookie mistake for a woman sleeping with a married man. I scrolled through her feed, photo after photo of designer brunches, rooftop cocktails, and carefully curated OOD posts showing off the same toned stomach I used to have before pregnancy stretched my skin into something foreign. Then I found it. Posted 3 days ago. Olivia at La Veranda wearing the diamond tennis bracelet I'd recognized from our credit card statement. Her caption made my stomach twist. When he spoils you just because it's Tuesday, keeper. The bracelet glinted under the restaurant lights. The same lights that had illuminated Daniel's face when he told me he was working late. My fingers flew across the keyboard. Within minutes, I'd created a fake account. At Emily J Designs, a jewelry boutique with a handful of generic posts. Then I slid into Olivia's DMs. Gorgeous bracelet. We're featuring our favorite customer pieces this month. Mind if we share yours? She responded instantly, OMG yes. It was a gift from my BF 2 hearts. Bingo. I screenshot the conversation. Then I went digging deeper. By dawn, I'd uncovered more than I'd bargained for. Olivia wasn't just Daniel's mistress. She was his paralegal. His subordinate. A fact that violated at least 3 clauses in his firm's HR policy. Better yet, she wasn't the first. Buried in old emails, I found references to a Jenny from accounting, and someone named Maya, who'd apparently transferred offices after a misunderstanding. Daniel had a pattern. And patterns were leverage. Naomi arrived at 9 a.m. with coffee and a USB drive. You look terrifying, she said, taking in my bloodshot eyes and the legal pads covered in scribbled notes. I handed her my phone. Look. Her eyebrows climbed as she scrolled through Olivia's feed. Jesus. She's not even trying to hide it. She doesn't think she has to. I took a gulp of scalding coffee, relishing the burn. Daniel's made her feel untouchable. Naomi grinned. Time to change that. Rebecca Shaw's office was all sleek lines and cold efficiency. She barely glanced at the printouts I'd brought before nodding. This is good, she said. But we need more. I'm working on it. Rebecca steepled her fingers. The firm is his weak spot. Thompson and Lowe prides itself on their family values PR. A sexual harassment lawsuit would destroy them. A knock at the door interrupted us. Rebecca's assistant leaned in. Sorry to interrupt, but you'll want to see this. She handed Rebecca a tablet. I caught a glimpse of the screen, a news headline. Prominent defense attorney Daniel Thompson spotted with mystery woman days after wife's delivery. The accompanying photo showed Daniel and Olivia leaving a hotel, his hand low on her back. The date stamp, last night. My stomach lurched. Rebecca's smile was razor sharp. Perfect. I waited until Daniel was in court to make my move. His firm's HR department received an email that afternoon. Attached. Screenshots of Daniel's texts to Olivia, receipts for their hotel stays, and the damning Instagram post. The subject line. Code of conduct violation at Thompson and Lowe? I didn't sign it. They called an emergency partners meeting within the hour. The email from Thompson and Lowe's HR department arrived the same day as Noah's 9-month wellness check. Subject. Termination review. Dear Mrs. Thompson, per our investigation into Daniel Thompson's misconduct, we've determined his actions violated firm policy. However, due to his partnership status, termination requires a 60-day review period per our operating agreement. During this time, Mr. Thompson has been placed on unpaid leave with restricted access to firm resources. I stared at the screen, Noah babbling in my lap. Translation. We're stalling to protect our reputation. Naomi summed it up better when I forwarded it. Rich men protecting richer men. Shocking. Rebecca's pen tapped against her legal pad. They're exploiting every technicality. No formal termination means Daniel still has 1. Access to firm attorneys for his custody case. 2. Ability to expense client development, a.e. bribing Vance. 3. Time to destroy evidence. I clenched Noah's onesie. How is this legal? Because, she said slowly, the senior partner signing his paychecks? Harold Lowe. Daniel's godfather. The pieces snapped together, the firm's reluctance, the delayed consequences. This wasn't just bureaucracy. It was family. That night Daniel came banging my door literally. That jolted Noah. "They investigating me for code of conduct violation," he said. "I know you are behind this." I rocked Noah. I bit back a smile. The first domino had fallen. Olivia called me 2 days later. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won out. "Mrs. Thompson," she began, her voice trembling. "I think we got off on the wrong foot." I nearly laughed. "Did we?" "I didn't know," she rushed on. "About the other women. About how he lied to you. Pause. He told me you were separating." "Funny." I adjusted Noah against my shoulder. "He told me he was working late." Silence. Then, "I'll testify." The words hung between us. "What?" "If you go after him," Olivia said, her voice hardening, "I'll testify. About everything." I didn't trust her. But I didn't need to. "Send me what you have," I said. "Then we'll talk." Olivia's evidence arrived at midnight. Emails. Texts. Voice memos. A treasure trove of Daniel's lies, not just to me but to her. To his firm. To everyone. The most damning? A recording of Daniel bragging about overbilling clients to fund his affair. I played it 3 times, Noah asleep in my arms, my heart pounding. Daniel's voice, smug and self-satisfied. "What are they gonna do? I'm the golden boy. They'd never risk the bad press of firing me. Rebecca was going to love this." I filed for divorce the next morning. Full custody. The house. Half his future earnings. Everything. When Daniel was served at the firm, his colleagues watched in silence as the process handed him the papers. His text to me was predictable. "You bitch." I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded Olivia's evidence to the State Bar Association. Let them deal with him. Noah was 6 weeks old when the news broke. Prominent attorney suspended amid ethics probe. The article named names. Featured quotes from a former paralegal who'd come forward. Daniel's photo stared back at me from the screen, his smile frozen in happier times. I closed the laptop. Outside, the first snow of winter began to fall. The first snowstorm of the year raged outside as I sat in Rebecca Shaw's office. Noah bundled against my chest in a sling. The heater hummed weakly, struggling against the chill creeping through the windows. Rebecca's fingers flew across her keyboard, the sharp clicks punctuating the heavy silence between us. "Daniel filed for joint custody this morning," she said finally, turning her monitor to show me the court documents. My stomach dropped. "He can't be serious." "Oh, he's serious." Rebecca tapped a manicured nail against the screen. "And he's playing dirty." I scanned the filing, my pulse roaring in my ears. Daniel's petition painted me as an unstable new mother, a woman suffering from postpartum depression who'd alienated him from his child. He'd included text messages where I'd refused to let him visit, records of my therapy sessions from after the birth, even statements from neighbors who'd heard us arguing. Worst of all was the attached affidavit from Dr. Evan Walsh, a psychiatrist I'd never met, declaring that separating a newborn from its father could cause irreparable psychological harm. "That son of a bitch," I whispered. Noah stirred in his sleep, his tiny fingers curling against my chest. I pressed a kiss to his downy head, breathing in his sweet baby scent to steady myself. Rebecca leaned forward. "He's counting on you to panic." "Don't." Daniel showed up unannounced 3 days later. I was in the middle of nursing Noah when the doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, I saw the familiar outline of his broad shoulders, the way he shifted impatiently from foot to foot. I didn't move. The bell rang again. Then pounding. "Lena. Open the damn door." Noah startled, his tiny mouth popping off my breast as he began to wail. I clutched him closer, my heart hammering. The pounding continued, each thud making the doorframe shudder. "I know you're in there." Daniel's voice had taken on that dangerous edge I remembered from our worst fights. "I have every right to see my son." A neighbor's curtain twitched across the street. I reached for my phone with shaking hands and hit record. "Daniel, you need to leave," I called through the door. "You're scaring Noah." "Scaring him?" A bitter laugh. "You're the one keeping him from his father." The knob rattled violently. For one terrifying moment I thought he might break it down. Then, "Mr. Thompson?" A new voice. Deeper. Authoritative. I peered through the peephole to see Officer Gutierrez from the local precinct standing on our porch, his hand resting lightly on his belt near the pepper spray. Daniel had taken a step back, his hands raised in a parody of innocence. "Just visiting my son, officer." Gutierrez didn't blink. "Does the mother want you here?" A beat of silence. "I have rights," Daniel spat. The officer's radio crackled. "Sir, I'm going to ask you to leave before this escalates." I watched through the window as Daniel's face twisted into something ugly. For a split second the mask slipped completely, revealing the man beneath, the one who'd looked me in the eye and lied for months. He pointed at the house. "This isn't over." That night, while Noah slept, I dove deeper into Dr. Evan Walsh's credentials. Something about his affidavit had nagged at me, the way his language mirrored Daniel's legal filings almost verbatim. A quick search revealed why. Walsh had testified in 3 other high-profile custody cases, always for wealthy fathers, always using the same parental alienation argument. And all 3 cases had been represented by Thompson and Lowe. I nearly woke Naomi with my midnight call. "It's a racket," I hissed into the phone. "Daniel's firm has this psychiatrist on speed dial for custody battles." Naomi yawned. "So expose him." "It's not that simple." I pulled up Walsh's website, where he touted his expertise in high-conflict divorce cases. "This guy's testified in dozens of cases. If I can prove he's being paid under the table, then you blow Daniel's case wide open," Naomi finished. "Exactly." Daniel's next move was textbook. Flowers arrived first, a massive bouquet of lilies with a card that read, "For Noah's nursery." Then came the texts alternating between pleading and manipulative. "I miss you both so much. You're being unreasonable, Lena. Don't punish our son because you're angry at me." The worst was when he started showing up at Noah's pediatrician appointments. "Mr. Thompson is listed as the father," the receptionist said apologetically when I objected. "Unless there's a court order." I arrived early to the next visit, only to find Daniel already in the waiting room, flipping through a parenting magazine like he hadn't betrayed us. He stood when he saw me, his smile practiced and warm. "There's my boy," he cooed, reaching for Noah. I turned my body away. "What are you doing here?" "Same as you." His voice dripped with false patience. "Caring for our son." The other parents in the waiting room were watching now, their expressions shifting from curiosity to judgment. I saw the moment Daniel noticed, the subtle straightening of his shoulders, the way his voice took on that performative warmth he used in court. "Let me hold him, Lena. Please." A woman with a toddler shot me a disapproving look. I wanted to scream. To throw the vase of flowers at his head. To force him to admit here in public that he'd missed Noah's birth because he'd been balls deep in his paralegal. Instead, I held my son tighter and walked out. Rebecca was already waiting when I stormed into her office, Noah fussing in his carrier. "Change pediatricians," she said before I could speak. "Today." I collapsed into a chair, exhaustion weighing my bones. "It's not just that. He's playing the perfect father," Rebecca finished. He handed me a file. "I know. But look what I found." The documents inside took my breath away. Billing records from Thompson and Lowe. Dozens of payments to Dr. Walsh over the years, all coded as expert witness fees. But the amounts were triple what psychiatrists typically earned for testimony. And one more thing, a memo from Daniel's senior partner. "Per our discussion, Walsh will be available for Thompson's custody matter. Discretion is paramount." Rebecca's smile was razor sharp. "That, my dear, is called a smoking gun." Something in me hardened that night. As I rocked Noah to sleep, watching his long lashes flutter against his cheeks, I made a decision. No more reacting. No more defense. It was time to attack. I logged into the parenting app we'd been ordered to use for communication and typed my first message to Daniel in weeks. "Noah has his first Christmas photo shoot tomorrow. 10 a.m. at Bright Eyes Studio. You can come." The response was immediate. "I'll be there." I smiled. Good. The photography studio was decked out in holiday cheer, fake snow, twinkling lights. a miniature sleigh for babies to pose in. Daniel arrived early, dressed in a ridiculous reindeer sweater I'd never seen before, his smile oozing fake cheer. "Where's my little man?" he asked, reaching for Noah. I handed him over without protest, watching as Daniel made a show of cuddling him. The photographer ate it up, snapping candid shots of doting dad with his newborn. Then right as we were finishing I dropped my bomb. "I spoke to Olivia yesterday," I said casually, adjusting Noah's Santa hat. Daniel froze. "What?" "She had some interesting things to say about your firm's billing practices." I met his eyes. "And Dr. Walsh?" The color drained from his face. The photographer, sensing the shift, discreetly stepped away. "You're bluffing," Daniel hissed. I pulled out my phone and played the recording Olivia had sent me, Daniel's voice, clear as day, telling her, "Walsh owes me for the last custody case. He'll say whatever I need." Daniel's grip on Noah tightened. "You scheming bitch." I plucked my son from his arms before he could react. "Merry Christmas, Daniel." As I walked away, I heard the photographer call after us, "Wait. We didn't get the family shot." I didn't turn around. The voicemail arrived at 2:37 a.m. I jolted awake, heart pounding, instinctively reaching for Noah in his bassinet beside me. His tiny chest rose and fell steadily, undisturbed by the phone's vibration. Daniel's name flashed on the screen. For a moment I considered deleting it unheard. But some primal instinct made me press play. "You think you're so clever." His voice was slurred, thick with alcohol and venom. "Playing your little games. But I know about your past, Lena. About what really happened in Chicago. You want to drag me through the mud? Fine. But I'll make sure they take Noah from you permanently." The threat hung in the dark like a noose. A name I hadn't heard in years. A ghost I'd buried. Noah whimpered in his sleep. I gathered him close, his warmth the only anchor in the sudden storm. Daniel wasn't bluffing. And that meant war. The coffee shop was nearly empty at dawn. Naomi slid into the booth across from me, her usual sharp wit dulled by the hour and the grim set of my mouth. "Start talking," she said. I pushed the burner phone across the table. On its screen, a scanned newspaper article from 8 years ago. University of Chicago student found dead in dormitory, Naomi's breath caught. Jesus. The photo showed a smiling girl with dark curls, Megan Cole. My freshman roommate. The article called it a suicide. It wasn't. "Daniel knows," I whispered. Naomi's fingers tightened around the phone. "How?" I closed my eyes. "Because I told him." The memory hit like a freight train. Daniel and I, early in our marriage, tangled in bedsheets after too much wine. His fingers tracing the scar on my wrist, the one I always covered with bracelets. "Tell me," he'd murmured, lips against my pulse. And I had. How Megan had been sleeping with our philosophy professor. How she'd confided in me about the pregnancy. How she'd been found hanging from her closet rod 3 days later with a note no one who knew her believed she'd written. "They covered it up," I'd whispered into the dark. "The school. The police." He had tenure. Daniel had held me tighter. "You should have gone to the media." Now he'd weaponized my grief. Olivia met me in a parking garage downtown, her sunglasses too large for her pale face. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "He's crazy," she said without preamble. "I didn't sign up for this." Kept my voice level. "For what?" He shoved a flash drive into my hand. "He made me dig into your past. Found some old campus police report from Chicago." Her hands shook. "He's planning to use it in court. Say you're unstable. That you lied about your roommate's death." The concrete wall seemed to close in. "Why are you helping me?" Olivia's laugh was hollow. "Because I was dumb enough to think I was special." She nodded to the flash drive. "Turns out he's got a whole file on his computer labeled, contingencies. Women he's screwed over. You're just the latest." The elevator dinged. She stepped back. "He's going to fire me tomorrow. Probably sue me for breach of confidentiality." A bitter smile. "Guess we're both his victims now." The files on Olivia's drive were worse than I'd imagined. Dozens of documents, each a blueprint for destruction. Sarah J. 2015 fired after rejecting his advances. NDA signed under threat of exposing her immigration status. Maya L. 2018 transferred offices after he sabotaged her promotion bid. Lena T. Current custody battle strategy including leverage re. Chicago incident. But the most damning? A folder labeled Walsh Payments, detailing how Daniel's firm had funneled money to the psychiatrist through shell companies. Rebecca's hands trembled as she scrolled. This isn't just legal misconduct. This is racketeering. I stared at the screen, the pieces clicking into place. Daniel hadn't just betrayed me. He'd made a career of breaking women. And now he'd handed me the knife to slit his throat. Family court was packed the morning of our hearing. Daniel arrived flanked by 2 associates, his navy suit tailored to perfection, his smile polished for the cameras he'd undoubtedly tipped off. He didn't look at me as I took my seat, Noah fussing in his carrier. Judge Kowalski, a no-nonsense woman with a reputation for eviscerating unprepared attorneys, called the session to order. Mr. Thompson, she said dryly, I understand you're petitioning for increased custody based on concerns about the mother's mental stability? Daniel stood, oozing false concern. Your Honor, we have compelling evidence that... Rebecca cut him off. Before we proceed, the court should review this. She handed the bailiff a thick envelope. Daniel's smirk faltered as Judge Kowalski donned her reading glasses. The silence stretched. The counselor. Her voice could have frozen hell. Are you aware that bribing a medical expert is a felony? Daniel's lawyer blanched. What? Rebecca stood. Your Honor, we have irrefutable evidence that Mr. Thompson and his firm have been paying Dr. Walsh for fraudulent testimony in multiple custody cases. She nodded to me. We also have proof that Mr. Thompson has been systematically harassing my client, including threats to fabricate claims about her past. The gallery erupted. Daniel was on his feet. This is a witch hunt. Those documents are notarized, Rebecca said sweetly, and authenticated by your former paralegal. The look Daniel shot me then was pure, undiluted hate. The judge's ruling was brutal. Full custody to me. Supervised visitation for Daniel. Referral of the Walsh matter to the state bar. But the real death blow came as we exited the courthouse. A reporter shoved a microphone in Daniel's face. Mr. Thompson, how do you respond to allegations your firm covered up sexual misconduct by faculty at 3 universities? I froze. That wasn't part of our playbook. Daniel's head whipped toward me, his eyes wide with realization. Olivia stood at the edge of the press scrum, her smile razor-thin. She'd gone nuclear. Noah was asleep by the time we got home. I should have felt triumphant. Daniel's career was in ruins. His reputation shredded. I'd won. So why did it feel so empty? The answer came at 11:47 p.m., when my phone lit up with a notification from the parenting app. Daniel Thompson has requested a visit. Attached was a single sentence. You took everything from me. I deleted it. Then I poured myself a glass of wine, sat in the rocking chair beside Noah's crib, and finally let myself cry. The first time I saw Daniel after the trial, he was on the evening news. A grainy courtroom footage showed him being escorted out by security, his tailored suit now wrinkled, his face a mask of barely contained rage. The chirun beneath him read, Prominent attorney suspended amid bribery scandal. I muted the TV. Noah babbled happily in his high chair, smearing sweet potato across his tray, oblivious to the wreckage his father had become. I wiped his sticky fingers, my own hands steady for the first time in months. The doorbell rang. Through the peephole I saw a deliveryman holding an enormous bouquet, white lilies, Daniel's signature move. The card read, We need to talk. For Noah's sake. I threw them in the trash. The unexpected visitor. 3 days later, Olivia showed up at my doorstep. She looked different. No more designer blazers or perfectly curled hair. Just jeans, a hoodie, and dark circles under her eyes. He's stalking me, she said without preamble. I didn't invite her in. Olivia shoved her phone at me. The screen showed a series of texts from Daniel. You ruined me. Did you really think you could walk away? I know where you live. The last message included a photo of Olivia's apartment building, taken at night. I went to the police, she said, her voice cracking. They said since he hasn't technically threatened me, there's nothing they can do. A bitter laugh escaped me. Welcome to my world. Olivia's eyes flicked past me to where Noah played on the living room floor. You have to help me. Why? I crossed my arms. You helped him destroy women for years. Her face crumpled. I didn't know. Bullshit. The word came out sharper than I intended, making Noah look up. I lowered my voice. You knew exactly what he was. Olivia opened her mouth, then closed it. When she spoke again, her tone was eerily calm. Then you'll want to see this. She handed me a folded piece of paper. The document was a screenshot of an email from Daniel to his divorce attorney, dated the day after the custody ruling. Per our discussion initiating Plan B. Attached are the Chicago files. Also reaching out to the PI about the other matter we discussed. Should have confirmation soon. My blood ran cold. Olivia's finger tapped the screen. See the attachment name? I squinted at the tiny text. Megan. He's not done with you, Olivia whispered. Noah chose that moment to toddle over, clutching his stuffed giraffe. He stared up at Olivia with wide, curious eyes, the same shape as Daniel's. She flinched. The University of Chicago alumni database was easier to hack than I expected. Dr. Richard Vance, the professor who'd slept with Megan, was still teaching. Tenured. Respected. His faculty photo showed a silver-haired man with a practiced smile, the kind that probably still made undergrads blush. A quick search revealed he'd published a book last year, Ethics in Modern Philosophy. The irony burned. Naomi squeezed my shoulder as I scrolled through Megan's old Facebook page, frozen in time. Her last post, a meme about finals week, had dozens of comments from grieving friends. He wouldn't actually reach out to Vance, would he? Naomi asked. I closed the laptop. He's desperate. And desperate men were dangerous. Rebecca's office smelled of espresso and ambition. She barely glanced at the email printouts before nodding. We need to force his hand, she said. How? A slow smile spread across her face. By giving him exactly what he wants. The plan was simple. 1. Leak a fake psychiatric evaluation suggesting I was unstable, courtesy of Rebecca's actor friend. 2. Wait for Daniel to use it in court. 3. Destroy him for submitting fraudulent evidence. Risky? Yes. But the alternative, letting him drag Megan's memory through the mud, was unthinkable. The bait taken. It took 8 days. Daniel filed an emergency custody petition, citing new evidence of my mental health crisis. The attached evaluation, our fake one, was laughably bad, full of terms like hysterical paranoia and maternal instability. Judge Kowalski took one look and scheduled a hearing. Rebecca was practically giddy. He didn't even verify it. Arrogant bastard. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I kept seeing Megan's face. The courthouse elevator doors opened to reveal Dr. Richard Vance. I nearly dropped my files. He looked older than his photos, deep lines around his mouth, a slight stoop to his shoulders, but those eyes were the same. Calculating. Our gazes locked. Recognition flickered across his face. Then Daniel stepped between us, his smile venomous. Lena. Meet our star witness. The hearing room was packed. Daniel led with the fake evaluation, his voice oozing faux concern. Your Honor, we have grave concerns about Noah's safety. Rebecca stood. Before we proceed, might I ask how Dr. Vance is qualified to speak on my client's mental health? Daniel blinked. He's here to testify about Ms. Thompson's history of lying. Rebecca arched a brow. Interesting choice given his own reputation. A murmur ran through the gallery. Vance shifted in his seat. Judge Kowalski peered over her glasses. Counselor, get to the point. Rebecca didn't hesitate. She handed the bailiff a file. This is a sworn affidavit from Olivia Renfield, Mr. Thompson's former paralegal, confirming he conspired to fabricate psychiatric evidence. She nodded to Vance. It also details Mr. Thompson's attempts to coerce testimony about events my client witnessed in college. Events this man, she pointed at Vance, was directly involved in. Daniel shot to his feet. Objection. This is character assassination. No, Rebecca said calmly. This is witness tampering. And we have proof. She played the recording Olivia had made, Daniel's voice clear as day. Vance will confirm Lena's instability if we make it worth his while. The gallery erupted. Vance was already edging toward the door. Daniel turned to me, his whisper vicious. You'll regret this. I met his gaze squarely. Try me. Judge Kolsky's ruling was swift. Daniel's petition dismissed. Supervised visitation revoked pending investigation. Vance reported to the university's ethics board. As we exited the courtroom, reporters swarmed. Daniel shoved through them, his once perfect hair disheveled, his tie askew. Vance was nowhere to be seen. Rebecca squeezed my arm. It's over. But as I buckled Noah into his car seat, I noticed a folded note tucked under his blanket. You won't always be watching. That night I dreamed of Megan. She stood at the foot of my bed, her neck bruised, her eyes accusing. You let him win, she whispered. I woke gasping to Noah's cries. As I rocked him back to sleep, I realized the truth. Some battles end. But wars go on forever. The end.